The vast emptiness of space stretched endlessly in all directions. Stars twinkled like tiny diamonds against the black void. In this quiet corner of the galaxy, nothing had disturbed the peace for thousands of years. But today was different, Captain. Talon stood on the bridge of his battlecruiser, the Dominion's edge. He was tall and proud, like all members of the Valoran Empire. His skin had a blue tint that glowed softly in the ship's light. His eyes were large and completely black, adapted for seeing in the dark spaces between stars. "Captain," called out his sensor officer, "we have something strange on our screens." Talon walked over to look at the readings. His long fingers touched the control panel with practiced ease. The Valorans had been the masters of this part of space for over 10,000 years. They knew every asteroid, every gas cloud, every piece of debris that floated in their territory. "What am I looking at?" Talon asked. "Unknown vessel, sir. It appeared on our long-range sensors about an hour ago. It's not moving, just drifting." Talon frowned. In all his years of service, he had never seen anything like this. The ship on his screen looked wrong somehow. It was made of dull gray metal, not the smooth bioorganic materials that all advanced species used. It had strange bumps and extensions sticking out from its hull. Most puzzling of all, it seemed to be powered down. "Send a message to Admiral Kairos," Talon ordered. "Tell him we have found something interesting." The message traveled instantly through space using Valoran quantum communication. Within minutes, Admiral Kairos himself appeared on the main screen of the bridge. He was even taller than Talon, with scars across his face from old battles. His rank made him one of the most powerful beings in this sector of space. "Show me what you found," Kairos demanded. Talon transferred the sensor data to the Admiral's ship. He watched as Kairos studied the readings with growing interest. The Admiral's black eyes seemed to shine with excitement. "Fascinating," Kairos said slowly. "This vessel uses technology I have never seen before. Look at these energy patterns. They are so primitive, so basic. This must be from some species that barely learned to travel between stars." "Should we investigate, Admiral?" Talon asked. "Of course, but carefully. Even primitive species can be dangerous if they are desperate." Kairos paused, thinking. "Bring your ship closer. Scan everything. I want to know what kind of beings built this thing." Talon ordered his crew to move toward the strange vessel. As they got closer, more details became clear. The ship was much larger than it had first appeared. It was at least as big as a Valoran cruiser, but it looked completely different. Instead of the smooth, flowing lines that marked advanced technology, this ship was all angles and hard edges. "Captain," his science officer called out, "these readings don't make sense. The ship appears to be made of simple metal alloys. Steel and titanium mostly. How can something so basic survive in deep space?" "Maybe their species never learned proper shipbuilding," Talon replied. "Look at those weapon ports. They seem designed for projectile weapons. Can you imagine? Throwing rocks at enemies instead of using energy beams." The crew of the Dominion's Edge laughed at this idea. The Valorans had stopped using physical projectiles millions of years ago. Their weapons fired pure energy that could destroy anything instantly. Why would anyone still use primitive bullets and missiles? "Admiral," Talon reported back. "The vessel appears to be some kind of warship, but built with very old technology. No signs of life aboard. It might be a derelict that drifted here from somewhere far away." Kairos smiled, showing his sharp teeth. "Perfect. We will take it back to our research stations. Our scientists will enjoy studying such primitive work. They can learn how less advanced species try to build warships." "What if the crew is just sleeping or hiding?" asked Talon's tactical officer. "Then we wake them up," Kairos replied. "Or we put them back to sleep permanently. Either way, that ship is coming with us." Talon nodded. The Valoran Empire had claimed this territory through strength and superior technology. Any vessel found in their space belonged to them by right of conquest. It did not matter if the original owners agreed or not. "Prepare boarding pods," Talon ordered. "Send a team over to secure the vessel. If anyone is alive over there, bring them to me for questioning." The boarding team was made up of Valoran warriors, each one trained from birth to fight and kill. They wore armor that could stop any known weapon and carried guns that fired concentrated energy beams. Against primitive beings with simple technology, they would be unstoppable. As the boarding pods launched toward the mysterious ship, Talon felt excited. It had been many years since his last real battle. Most species in this area either served the Valoran Empire willingly or had been conquered long ago. Finding new beings to fight and defeat would bring glory to his name. "Sir," his communication officer said, "we are getting strange readings from the alien ship. Energy levels are rising." "Rising? I thought you said it was powered down." "It was, sir, but something is happening now. The ship appears to be waking up." Talon stared at the sensor readings with growing concern. The mysterious vessel was indeed coming to life. Lights appeared along its hull. Energy flowed through systems that had seemed dead moments before. Most worrying of all, several sections of the ship were moving, rotating to face the approaching Valoran fleet. "Admiral," Talon called urgently, "the vessel is powering up." "It knows we are here." Kairos appeared on the screen again, but now he looked annoyed instead of excited. So they were hiding after all? No matter. Continue with the boarding operation. Once we capture their ship, we will teach these primitives what happens when they enter Valoran space without permission. "Yes, Admiral." Talon turned back to watch the boarding pods approach the alien vessel. His warriors would cut through the ship's hull and overwhelm any defenders inside. It would be over quickly, but something felt wrong. The alien ship was not trying to run away or call for help. Instead, it just floated there, waiting. Its weapons ports were definitely pointing at the Valoran ships now, but it had not fired. What were they waiting for? "Captain," his sensor officer said nervously, "I'm reading massive energy buildups in the alien vessel. Whatever their weapons are, they're charging them now. Let them," Talon laughed. "Primitive energy weapons cannot hurt ships like ours. Our shields can stop anything these backward aliens might throw at us." The boarding pods were almost at the alien ship when something unexpected happened. The vessel suddenly moved. Not the slow, clumsy movement of a damaged ship, but the quick, precise motion of something very much in control. "Sir," the navigation officer shouted, "the alien ship just changed position. Our boarding pods missed their target." Talon stared in amazement. The strange vessel had moved away from his boarding pods with perfect timing. It was not damaged or helpless at all. Whoever was controlling that ship knew exactly what they were doing. "Admiral," Talon reported with growing worry, "I think we may have made a mistake. This ship and its crew are not as primitive as we thought." But Admiral Kairos was no longer interested in conversation. His orders came through clearly. "Disable their engines and weapons. If they want to play games, we will show them how the Valoran Empire deals with stubborn children." Talon felt excitement and fear mixing in his chest. Finally, a real fight was about to begin. Inside the human warship KSFS Dan, red warning lights flashed across the bridge. Captain Minho sat in his command chair, watching the alien ship surround his vessel. He was a calm man in his 40s, with graying hair and steady hands. His uniform bore the insignia of the Korean Space Force, Earth's newest military branch. "Captain," said Communications Officer Nari, "we have 12 unknown vessels approaching. They're not responding to our peaceful greeting signals." Nari was young and bright, fresh out of the Space Academy. This was supposed to be a routine patrol mission along the edge of human space. First contact with alien life was not part of the plan. "Keep trying," Minho ordered. "Use all the universal greeting protocols. Mathematics, prime numbers, anything that might show we're intelligent." Engineer Jiwan looked up from her station. She was the ship's most experienced crew member, having served on submarines before joining the Space Force. "Captain, these ships are using technology I've never seen before. Energy weapons, some kind of plasma shielding, very advanced." "But they're not shooting yet," observed Tactical Officer Hyunwoo. He was studying the alien ships through the targeting system. "They're just watching us," Minho nodded. Maybe they're as curious about us as we are about them. Nari, are you getting any response to our signals? Yes, sir. Something's coming through now. Nari adjusted her headset and frowned. It's not friendly, Captain. The main screen flickered to life. A tall, blue-skinned being appeared, looking down at them with large black eyes. When it spoke, the ship's computer translated its words into Korean. Primitive vessel, you are in territory belonging to the Valoran Empire. You will shut down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will be met with destruction. The crew of the Daean exchanged glances. Captain Minho stood up slowly. I am Captain Minho of the Earthship Daean. We come in peace and wish to establish friendly relations with your people. The alien being on the screen laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. Earth? Never heard of it. You will submit to boarding immediately. Your primitive technology and crew will be studied by our scientists. I'm afraid I cannot allow that, Minho replied firmly. We are on a peaceful mission and claim the right to free passage through space. You claim rights? The alien seemed amused. You have no rights here except what we choose to give you. This is your final warning. Submit or be destroyed. The transmission ended abruptly. Captain Minho sat back down, his mind racing. First contact was not going well at all. Sir, Hyungwoo said quietly, they're launching small ships toward us. Probably boarding craft. How long until they reach us? 10 minutes, maybe less. Minho looked around at his crew. They were all young and inexperienced compared to him, but they were well trained. Options? Engineer Ji-won spoke first. We could. Run. Our engines are in good shape, and we might be able to outrun them. But we don't know if there are more ships waiting for us, Hyungwoo added. And running away won't solve the problem. They know about Earth now. What about fighting? Asked Nari nervously. 12 ships against one? Ji-won shook her head. The odds are terrible. Maybe, said Minho thoughtfully. But look at their ships. They're designed for energy weapons and shields. What do we have? Railguns, missiles, kinetic projectiles, Hyungwoo answered. Old-fashioned stuff by their standards, exactly. They might not be prepared for our kind of weapons. Minho made his decision. We're not running and we're not surrendering. If they want to study humans, they can study how we fight. The crew went to work with quiet efficiency. This was what they had trained for, even if they had never expected to use it against aliens. Nari, send one more message, Minho ordered. Tell them we wish to leave peacefully, but we will defend ourselves if attacked. The response came back quickly. It was the same alien leader, but now he looked angry. Your primitive species has chosen destruction. We will take your ship as wreckage instead of as a prize. Well, Minho said calmly, at least we tried diplomacy. Ji-won was already rerouting power to the weapon systems. Captain, all guns are ready, missiles loaded and targeted. Their boarding craft are getting close, Hyungwoo reported. Should. I shoot them down? Not yet. Let them think we're helpless until the last possible moment. The alien boarding pods were small and fast, covered in some kind of energy shielding. They were clearly designed to cut through enemy hulls and deliver troops inside. But as they approached the Daeon, something unexpected happened. Captain, Nari said with surprise, they're trying to attach to our hull, but they can't get through our armor. The human ship was built differently than anything the aliens had encountered. Its hull was thick steel and titanium, designed to withstand impacts from space debris and enemy fire. The alien cutting tools made for slicing through bioorganic materials could barely scratch it. They're having trouble, Hyungwoo observed. Should we help them? Oh yes, Minho smiled grimly. Help them by showing them what human weapons can do. Target their main ships, not the boarding craft. I want them to see what happens when you threaten Earth. Sir, are you sure? Once we fire, there's no going back. They've already made their choice, Minho replied. They came here expecting to find weak primitives they could bully and capture. Instead, they found humans. Let's show them the difference. Hyunwoo's hands moved over his controls. Weapons ready, Captain. Targeting their flagship first. Do it. The order was given quietly, but it would change everything. The first shot, fired between humans and aliens, was about to thunder through space. On the screens, they could see the alien commander's face as he waited for his boarding teams to break through. He looked confident and amused, like a cat playing with a mouse. He had no idea that the mouse was actually a tiger. "Firing," Hyunwoo announced. The KSFS Daein spoke with the voice of human engineering. Railguns that could punch through planetary armor sent tungsten rods flying at incredible speed. Missiles with nuclear warheads streaked toward their targets like angry hornets. The aliens were about to learn that sometimes primitive technology was the most dangerous kind of all. Captain Minho watched the weapons fire and felt a strange mix of sadness and determination. Humanity had hoped their first meeting with aliens would be peaceful. Instead, it was going to be a lesson in why you should never underestimate a species that had survived by fighting everything from wild animals to each other for millions of years. The alien commander's confident smile was about to disappear forever. Admiral Kairos stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, watching the tactical display with growing amusement. 12 ships of the Valoran fleet had formed a perfect circle around the primitive alien vessel. It was a classic capture formation used countless times to subdue rebellious species. "Look at that pathetic thing," he said to his officers. "It cannot even damage our boarding pods with its crude weapons." Commander Nexus, his second in command, nodded in agreement. "Their hull appears to be made of simple metal alloys, Admiral. Our energy weapons will slice through it like cutting paper." "And those weapon ports," laughed Captain Vel from the destroyer. "Starrender. They actually think projectile weapons can harm us. When was the last time anyone was foolish enough to use kinetic rounds in space combat?" 3,000 years ago, at least," replied Kairos. "Back when species were still crawling out of their home systems with chemical rockets and nuclear bombs." The Valoran Empire had long ago moved beyond such primitive warfare. Their ships fired concentrated beams of plasma that could melt through any known material. Their shields could absorb and redirect energy attacks with perfect efficiency. They had biomechanical hulls that could repair themselves and weapons that could track targets across entire solar systems. "Admiral," reported the sensor officer, "our boarding teams are having difficulty penetrating their hull. The metal is thicker than expected." "How thick can it be?" Kairos asked dismissively. "Use the plasma cutters at full power. Burn through whatever crude armor they have." On the main screen, they could see the alien ship up close. It was an ugly thing, all sharp angles and visible weapon turrets. It looked like something built by a species that expected to get shot at a lot. The Valorans, with their elegant curves and flowing designs, found it offensive to look at. "Sir," the communication officer said, "the alien ship is sending another message." "Let me hear it," Kairos ordered. The voice that came through the speakers was calm and steady. The translation made it sound almost polite. "This is Captain Minho of the Earth vessel Daein. We wish to depart this area peacefully. Please allow us to leave without further incident." Kairos burst out laughing. "They still think they have a choice in this matter. Send a reply." His message was broadcast to the human ship and to all vessels in his fleet. "Primitive beings, you are surrounded by the finest warships in the galaxy. Your crude vessel cannot possibly harm us. Surrender now, and you will be treated as valuable specimens. Resist, and you will be destroyed." The response came back quickly. "We cannot surrender. If you attempt to board our ship, we will defend ourselves." "Defend themselves?" Captain Vel laughed over the communication channel. "With what? Those ancient projectile weapons?" Science Officer Quill spoke up from his station. "Admiral, I've been studying their ship design. It's actually quite interesting from a historical perspective. They appear to use kinetic energy weapons exclusively. Railguns, missile systems, probably some kind of chemical explosive warheads." "Fascinating," Kairos said sarcastically. "They're like a museum piece. A living example of how primitive species try to make war. Should we disable them quickly, Admiral?" asked Commander Nexus. Our plasma cannons could destroy their engines without damaging the hull too badly. No, Kairos decided. I want to see what their weapons can do. It will be amusing to watch them fire their little projectile shields. Our scientists will want detailed recordings of primitive kinetic weapons in action. The boarding teams were still working to cut through the alien hull. Their plasma torches were making progress, but slower than expected. The metal was not just thick, it was also layered in some complex way that made cutting difficult. Admiral, the tactical officer reported, the alien ship is powering up its weapon systems. Energy readings are increasing across all their weapon ports. Excellent. Are our shields at full power? Yes, sir. All ships report maximum defensive capability. Kairos smiled widely. This would be educational for his younger officers. Many of them had never seen kinetic weapons fired in anger. They would learn today why the Valoran Empire had stopped using such crude tools millennia ago. All ships maintain position, he ordered. Do not return fire unless I give the order. I want to see what damage their projectiles can do to modern shielding. Captain Talon's voice came over the communication channel. Admiral, are you certain this is wise? Even primitive weapons can be dangerous if we're not careful. Careful? Kairos laughed. Talon, your shields could stop a meteor traveling at light speed. What could possibly worry you about metal bullets fired by primitives? The truth was that no one in the Valoran fleet had ever faced kinetic weapons in real combat. Their shields and armor were designed to deflect energy beams, not solid projectiles. But this knowledge had been forgotten over thousands of years of easy victories. Science. Officer Yungji aboard the human ship was making discoveries of her own. Her sensors were analyzing the alien vessels with growing excitement. Captain, she called out, I'm reading their defensive systems. They use some kind of energy shielding, but it's designed for deflecting plasma and laser weapons. What about kinetic rounds? Captain Minho asked. Their shields might not stop solid projectiles. At all, sir. It's like they've never faced this kind of attack before. Minho nodded grimly. Then we'll give them a lesson they won't forget. Admiral Kairos was still enjoying himself. Look at them, he said to his bridge crew. 12 of our finest ships, surrounding one primitive vessel, and they still think they can fight. The arrogance of lesser species never fails to amuse me. Sir, the sensor officer said with some concern, their weapons are fully charged now. Energy readings are off the scale. Off the scale? Kairos frowned. How much power could primitive kinetic weapons possibly need? I don't know, sir. But whatever they're planning to do, they're putting enormous amounts of energy into it. For the first time, a small doubt crept into Kairos's mind, but he pushed it away. The Valoran Empire had conquered half the galaxy. They had defeated species, with technology far more advanced than anything this primitive vessel could possess. All ships prepare to record the engagement, he ordered. This will make an excellent training video showing the futility of resisting Valoran forces. On the human ship, the final preparations were complete. Captain Minho looked around at his crew one last time. They were about to make history, but not in the way anyone had hoped. Are we ready? He asked quietly. All weapons charged and targeted, Yunwu reported. Engines ready for evasive maneuvers, added Juwan. Recording everything for the historical record, said Nari. Minho took a deep breath. Then let's show them what humans can do when we're cornered. Admiral Kairos was still smiling when the first human railgun fired. He was still smiling when the tungsten rod, moving at a significant fraction of light speed, passed through his shields like they weren't there. He stopped smiling when it punched completely through his ship. Captain Minho felt the deck vibrate beneath his feet as the KSFS Dayan unleashed its fury. The sound of firing railguns echoed through the ship's hull like thunder. Every weapon system that human engineering could create was speaking at once. First salvo away, Weapons Officer Dong-Yun reported, his voice steady despite the magnitude of what was happening. Targeting the flagship as ordered. Dong-Yun was a young man who had dreamed of space combat since childhood. But in all his training, he had never imagined he would be firing on alien warships. His hands moved over the controls with practiced precision, years of simulation finally put to real use. "Time to impact?" Captain Minho asked. 12 seconds for the railgun rounds, 30 seconds for the missiles. Navigator Soyen was already calculating firing solutions for the next targets. She was the ship's mathematician, able to plot courses through three-dimensional space that would make veteran pilots dizzy. Now she was using those same skills to deliver death to enemy ships. "Captain," she called out, "I have solutions for targets 2 through 5. Recommend we concentrate fire on their larger vessels first." "Agreed." "Dong-Yun, prepare a second salvo." "Communications Specialist Jinho, are you recording everything?" Jinho nodded from his station. He was the youngest member of the crew, barely out of the academy. His job was to document everything that happened for the historical record. Today he was recording humanity's first space battle. "Every shot, every transmission, every sensor reading," Junho confirmed. "If we don't make it back, at least Earth will know what happened here." "We're making it back," Minho said firmly, "all of us." The first railgun rounds reached their target. 3 tungsten rods, each one weighing several tons and moving at incredible speed, struck the alien flagship. The Valoran energy shields, designed to deflect plasma beams, offered no resistance at all to solid projectiles. The rods punched through the alien ship's hull like bullets through paper. They entered through the forward sections and exited through the rear, leaving perfectly round holes that immediately began venting atmosphere and debris into space. "Direct hits on Target 1, Dong-Yun shouted with excitement. Their flagship is venting atmosphere. Through the main view screen, they could see the alien ship shuddering under the impact. Lights flickered along its hull as systems failed. The elegant curves that had looked so advanced moments before were now broken and twisted. Their shields didn't even slow us down, observed Science Officer Yunji. She was monitoring the enemy ship's energy signatures, watching for any sign of adaptation to human weapons. "It's like they've never faced kinetic attacks before." "Then we'll teach them," Minho replied grimly. Second salvo, different targets, spread the damage around. The human missiles arrived at the flagship seconds after the railgun rounds. Each warhead contained enough nuclear force to level a city. When they detonated against the already damaged alien ship, the explosion was visible even through the glare filters of the view screen. "Target 1 is breaking apart," reported Soyen. "Hull integrity completely lost. The Valoran flagship, Pride, of Admiral Kairos' fleet, split in half like a broken toy. The 2 sections drifted apart, trailing debris and frozen atmosphere. There were no escape pods, no signs of survivors." "Magnificent," Engineer Juwan breathed. She had helped design the Daeon's weapon systems, but seeing them in action was still amazing. "The missiles went right through their shields, too." "Energy. Weapons, kinetic weapons, it doesn't matter," Minho observed. "Their defenses were designed for a completely different kind of warfare." The remaining 11 alien ships were beginning to react. Energy beams lanced out toward the human vessel, brilliant streams of plasma that should have been able to melt through any armor. But the Daeon had been built by a species that expected to fight and get hit. "Taking fire," reported Dong-Yun. "Point defense systems engaging." The human ship's hull was covered with small automated guns designed to shoot down incoming missiles and projectiles. They couldn't stop energy beams, but they didn't need to. The Daeon's armor was thick steel and ceramic, designed to absorb and disperse heat. "Minimal damage," Juwan called out from her engineering station. "Hull temperature rising in sections 7 and 12, but well within acceptable limits." "They're not used to targets that can take a hit," Minho realized. "Their weapons are designed for quick kills against lightly armored opponents." The tactical situation was becoming clear. The alien ships were fast and elegant, with powerful weapons and sophisticated shields, but they were built for fighting enemies who used similar technology. Against crude human kinetic weapons, they were helpless. "Third salvo ready," Dong-Yun announced, targeting 2 destroyers and a cruiser. "Fire!" More railgun rounds streaked across space, followed by a spread of guided missiles. The human weapons were not as elegant as alien energy beams, but they were devastatingly effective. Each tungsten rod carried the force of a small meteor impact. Each missile warhead could crack open a mountain. The alien destroyers tried to evade, their graceful hulls dancing through space in patterns designed to confuse energy weapon targeting systems. But human missiles used different principles. They didn't need to maintain a constant beam on target. They could chase and adapt and wait for the perfect moment to strike. 2 hits on target 3, 1 hit on target 4, Soyan reported. Target 5 took 3 missiles amidships. The alien ships were learning, but slowly. They began firing at the incoming missiles, trying to shoot them down before impact. Their energy beams could destroy the warheads, but only if they hit them directly. And there were many missiles coming from different angles. They're adapting their tactics, Yunwu observed from his tactical station. But not fast enough. How many ships have we damaged so far? Minho asked. 4 destroyed, 3 heavily damaged, Donyun answered. 5 remaining ships are still combat effective. Not for long. Soyan, plot an evasive course. Take us through their formation. G1. Give me maximum power to engines and weapons. Sir, Junho called out nervously, one of the alien ships is trying to communicate. Put it through. The face that appeared on screen was no longer confident and amused. The alien captain looked shocked and frightened. When he spoke, his voice shook with disbelief. What kind of weapons are those? How are you penetrating our shields? Minho looked back at him calmly. We tried to leave peacefully. You chose to attack us instead. Now you're learning what human warships can do. This is impossible. Your technology is primitive. You use crude projectile weapons like barbarians. Sometimes crude works better than sophisticated, Minho replied. You forgot that simple solutions can be the most effective ones. Please, the alien captain begged, call off your attack. We can negotiate. You had your chance to negotiate, Minho said coldly. You chose to treat us like specimens to be captured and studied. Now you can study human warfare up close. He gestured to Junho to cut the transmission. The alien ship continued trying to communicate, but no one on the Dan was listening anymore. 4th salvo ready, Donyun announced. Target their remaining heavy units. Let's finish this quickly. The human ship continued its deadly work, each shot carefully aimed and devastatingly effective. The aliens had started this fight expecting an easy victory against primitive opponents. Instead, they were being systematically destroyed by weapons. They didn't understand and couldn't defend against dot space around the KSFS. Dan was becoming a graveyard of alien technology and Valoran ambitions. Admiral Kairos had exactly 3 seconds to understand what was happening to his ship before he died. The first tungsten rod struck the Eternal Dominion in the forward command section, passing through 17 decks before exiting through the engine compartment. The second rod hit near the main reactor, sending cascading failures throughout the ship's power grid. The third rod punched through the Admiral's bridge just as Kairos opened his mouth to scream. The Valoran flagship, master of 1,000 space battles, killer of rebellious worlds, died in silence. Its biomechanical hull, designed to repair itself from energy weapon damage, could do nothing against holes that went completely through the ship. Atmosphere rushed out in glittering streams. Internal fires bloomed in the areas where systems overloaded and failed. Captain Talon, commanding the battle cruiser Dominion's Edge, watched his admiral die and felt his world collapse. In all his years of service, he had never seen anything like this. The flagship hadn't just been damaged. It had been cored like an apple, all ships. He screamed into his communicator, "Return fire! Destroy that primitive vessel." But even as he gave the order, more human weapons were already in flight. The missiles came next, nuclear fire wrapped in guided metal shells. They struck the dying flagship and finished what the railguns had started. The explosion was visible. From the other ships, a brief star that lit up space before fading to nothing. Captain Suman stood on the bridge of his destroyer Void, Stalker, and tried to make sense of what he was seeing. The flagship was gone. Not damaged, not disabled, but completely destroyed. And the human ship was already targeting new victims. "Captain," his weapons officer called out, "the alien vessel is firing again. Evasive maneuvers," Seungmin ordered. "Maximum speed." The Void Stalker was fast and agile, designed for hit-and-run attacks against larger vessels. Its biomechanical hull could change shape slightly to improve speed and stealth. But speed meant nothing when the enemy weapons moved at light speed. 3. More railgun rounds reached their targets before Seungmin's ship had moved a kilometer. The heavy cruiser Starcrusher took 2 hits in its engine section and began spinning helplessly. The destroyer Night Terror tried to use its plasma cannons to shoot down incoming missiles, but there were too many coming from too many directions. "Their weapons ignore our shields completely," reported Seungmin's science officer. "Energy deflection is useless against solid projectiles." "Then increase armor density," Seungmin ordered. "Reroute power from shields to hull reinforcement." "Sir, our HULL is biomechanical. It can't be made thicker quickly enough." Another explosion lit up space as the Night Terror died. Its graceful curves became twisted metal and frozen atmosphere. The human missiles had found their target despite all attempts at point defense. Captain Vel, commanding the Star Render, was having similar problems. His ship was designed for long-range energy combat, staying far from enemies while firing devastating plasma beams. But the human vessel was closing distance rapidly, and its weapons seemed to work just as well up close. "Why aren't our weapons hurting them?" Vel demanded. "Their hull appears to be designed for thermal absorption," his tactical officer replied. "Our energy beams are heating their armor, but not penetrating. Impossible. Our plasma cannons can melt through planetary crust." "Yes, sir, but only if the target stays still long enough. Their ship is too heavily armored and moving too quickly." The human vessel was indeed moving with purpose and precision. It didn't just fire and wait for results. It fired, then immediately changed position to avoid return fire, then fired again from a new angle. The crew clearly understood three-dimensional space combat in ways that surprised the Valoran commanders. Borum, the fleet tactical coordinator aboard the command ship Tactical Prime, was trying desperately to adapt to this new kind of warfare. She had studied every battle the Valoran Empire had ever fought, but nothing in the historical records prepared her for this. "All ships," she broadcast, "concentrate fire on their engine section. If we can disable their movement, we can wear them down with continuous bombardment." But the human ship seemed to know this too. It never presented its engines as an easy target, constantly rotating and shifting to keep its thickest armor facing the enemy. And its point defense systems were shooting down any missiles that came too close. "Coordinator Borum," Captain Talon called out, "we need new tactics. Our standard formations are useless against these weapons." "I'm working on it," Borum replied, but she was lying. There was nothing in Valoran military doctrine that dealt with kinetic weapons. Their entire way of making war was based on energy, weapons and shields. Against solid projectiles, they were fighting blind. The human ship fired again. This time it targeted 3 ships simultaneously, spreading its fire to create maximum confusion. The cruiser Stellar Dominance took a railgun round through its command section, killing most of the senior officers. The destroyer Quantum Edge tried to dodge but took 2 missile hits that cracked its hull open like an egg. 7 ships down, Captain Seungmin reported grimly. 5 remaining, but 2 are heavily damaged. How is this possible? Captain Vel screamed over the communication channel. "They're primitives. They use crude metal weapons." "Crude but effective?" Borum replied. Bitterly, "Our ancestors stopped using kinetic weapons so long ago that we forgot how to defend against them." The human ship was moving through their formation like a predator among prey. It would fire, then accelerate away from return fire, then circle around for another attack. Its movements were precise and calculated, showing that the crew understood exactly what they were doing. "New contacts," reported the sensor officer aboard Seungmin's ship. "More human vessels approaching." "What?" Seungmin felt hope surge in his chest. If there were more primitive ships coming, maybe they could overwhelm this one with numbers. But as the sensor data became clearer, his hope turned to horror. "Sir, those aren't human ships. They're our own vessels. Wreckage from the ships that have been destroyed." The debris field around them was growing larger as more Valoran ships died. Pieces of biomechanical hull floated in space alongside the bodies of crews who had thought themselves invincible just minutes before. "Coordinator," Talon called out desperately, "we need to retreat. We can't fight this thing with conventional tactics." "Retreat?" Borum's voice was shocked. "The Valoran Empire does not retreat from primitive species." "The Valoran Empire has never faced anything like this," Talon replied. "Look around you. Half our fleet is dead." Another explosion punctuated his words as the quantum edge finally succumbed to its damage. The destroyer broke apart in a shower of sparks and atmosphere, adding more debris to the growing field around the human warship. Captain Sungmin made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. "All remaining ships," he broadcast, "scatter formation. Make them chase us individually instead of shooting us while we're grouped together." It was sound tactical thinking, but it came too late. The human ship had already proven it could destroy multiple targets quickly. Spreading out would only make the individual ships easier to pick off one by one. The KSFS Dayan continued its methodical destruction of the Valoran fleet. Each shot was carefully aimed, each missile precisely guided. The human crew worked with the efficiency of a machine, showing no mercy to enemies who had offered none to them. In less than 10 minutes, the Valoran Empire had learned a terrible lesson about underestimating primitive species. But for most of them, it was a lesson they would never have the chance to use. Engineer Jiwan watched her control panels with the focused attention of someone who had spent decades keeping machines running under pressure. The KSFS Dayan was performing beyond all expectations, but she knew that every shot fired, every evasive maneuver, every system pushed to maximum output brought them closer to mechanical limits. "Power distribution optimal," she reported to Captain Minho. "Rerouting energy from life support to weapon systems. We can maintain this rate of fire for another 20 minutes before we need to cycle the railguns." 20 minutes was an eternity. In space combat, Jiwan had served on submarines where battles lasted seconds and wars were decided by who could shoot first. Here in space, with enemies scattered across thousands of kilometers, they had time to think, to plan, to execute complex tactics. "Missile inventory?" Captain Minho asked. 60% remaining," replied Weapons Officer Dongyun. "We're using them efficiently, but these alien ships are tougher than expected." The human missiles were not simple explosives. Each one carried sophisticated guidance systems able to change course multiple times during flight. They could work together, coordinating their attacks to overwhelm enemy defenses. Some carried conventional explosives, others nuclear warheads, and a few had specialized penetration charges designed to punch through thick armor. "Target the damaged ships first," Minho decided. "Finish them off before they can repair themselves or escape." Through the main view screen, they could see the battlefield taking shape. Debris from destroyed Valoran ships created a slowly expanding cloud of wreckage. The surviving enemy vessels were trying to regroup, but their formation was broken and their confidence shattered. "Sir," Science Officer Yunji called out, "I'm analyzing the enemy ship designs. Their hulls appear to be biomechanical, capable of self-repair, but only from energy weapon damage. Our kinetic impacts are creating wounds they can't heal." "Interesting. Can you target their repair systems?" "Already on it. The biomechanical sections seem to be concentrated in specific areas of each ship. If we can hit those zones, we can prevent them from recovering." The tactical situation was becoming clearer with each passing minute. The Valoran ships were sophisticated and elegant, but they were designed for a completely different kind of warfare. Their weapons fired pure energy that could destroy anything it touched, but only if it could maintain contact long enough to burn through armor. Their shields could deflect or absorb energy attacks but offered no protection against solid projectiles. Most importantly, their tactics were based on long-range dueling between equals. They were not prepared for the close-range brawling that human ships had been designed for. Incoming transmission, reported communications specialist Junho. Multiple alien ships trying to coordinate. Let me hear it, Minho ordered, the Valoran. Voices came through the translation system, speaking rapidly in their own language. The computer worked to interpret their words, but the meaning was clear even without perfect translation. They were confused, frightened, and trying desperately to adapt to a threat they didn't understand. They're calling for reinforcements, Junho said, and they're trying to warn other ships about our weapons. Can you jam their communications? Already working on it, sir. Our electronic warfare systems are more advanced than theirs in some ways. The human ship had been designed by a species that expected to face enemies with superior technology. Every system had backup modes, alternative methods, and creative solutions to problems. The Valorans, accustomed to technological superiority, had never needed such flexibility. New missiles away, Dongyun announced, targeting the cruiser that's trying to retreat. 6 missiles streaked toward the damaged Valoran ship. The enemy vessel's point defense systems tried to shoot them down, but human missiles were designed to be difficult targets. They approached from different angles, some flying straight while others took indirect paths. When the alien energy beams destroyed one missile, 2 more were already too close to stop. The explosions rippled along the cruiser's hull, each one carefully placed to cause maximum damage. The biomechanical sections that could have repaired energy weapon damage were destroyed by the kinetic impacts and nuclear fire. Target eliminated, Soyan reported from her navigation station. That's ship number 8 down. 4 remaining, Minho observed. But they're learning. Look at their movement patterns. The surviving Valoran ships were indeed adapting. Instead of maintaining their elegant formations, they were spreading out and using evasive maneuvers. They had stopped trying to engage at long range and were attempting to close distance where their energy weapons might be more effective. They think they can outfight us up close, Youngwoo said from his tactical station. Should we show them? Why, that's a mistake. Absolutely. Jiwon, give me maximum engine power. We're going to demonstrate why humans are good at close combat. The KSFS Dayan had been designed by people who understood that space battles might require sudden acceleration, tight turns, and violent maneuvers. Its engines were powerful and its structure was built to handle stress. The Valoran ships, optimized for graceful long-range combat, were not prepared for the kind of aggressive maneuvering that human crews trained for. Incoming enemy ships, Soyan announced. 2 destroyers approaching from different vectors. They're trying to catch us in a crossfire. Perfect, Minho smiled grimly. Take us straight toward the closer one. Maximum acceleration. The human ship turned toward the approaching Valoran destroyer like a missile seeking its target. The alien vessel tried to maintain distance, firing its plasma cannons in long, sustained beams. But the Dayan's armor was designed to absorb and dissipate heat. The alien weapons heated the hull but couldn't penetrate. Point defense systems engaging, Dongyun reported, shooting down their smaller projectiles. The Valoran ship was firing everything it had. Energy beams, plasma bolts, and what appeared to be some kind of guided energy missiles. But the human point defense guns were designed to stop incoming threats, and they worked with mechanical precision. Range closing, Soyan called out. 5,000 kilometers and decreasing. Launch missiles at minimum range, Minho ordered. I want them to impact before their point defense can react. At close range, the human missiles were almost impossible to stop. They flew for only seconds before reaching their target, giving the enemy no time to shoot them down. When they hit, the Valoran destroyer simply came apart. Its graceful hull cracked open like a broken shell, spilling atmosphere and debris into space. 9 down, Yunwoo reported with satisfaction. 3 to go. The remaining Valoran ships were no longer trying to fight. They were running, using every bit of speed their elegant engines could provide. But human ships had been designed by a species that sometimes needed to chase down fleeing enemies. They're faster than us in a straight line, Jawan observed, but we're more maneuverable. If we can force them to turn, we can catch them. Do it, Minho ordered. Soyan, plot intercept courses. Don't let any of them escape. The chase began among the debris of the Valoran fleet. The human ship moved through the wreckage like a hunter following wounded prey. The surviving alien vessels tried desperately to reach the edge of the engagement zone, but the KSFS Dan was relentless. One by one, the remaining ships fell to human weapons. The destroyer Voidstalker tried to hide in the debris field, but human sensors found it anyway. The tactical coordinator's ship Tactical Prime attempted to use the wreckage as shields, but missiles could navigate around obstacles. The final cruiser made a desperate attempt to ram the human vessel, but railgun rounds stopped it long before it could get close. When the battle was over, space around the KSFS Dan was quiet except for the slowly expanding debris field. 12. Ships of the Valoran Empire had entered this engagement expecting an easy victory over primitive opponents. None of them would return home to report their failure. All enemy vessels destroyed, Dong-Yun announced quietly. No survivors detected. Captain Minho looked around at his crew. They had just won humanity's first space battle, but there was no celebration. They all understood that this was just the beginning of something much larger and more dangerous. Excellent work, everyone, he said simply. Now let's figure out what we've gotten ourselves into. Captain Suman's hands shook as he tried to input commands into his ship's control system. The Void Stalker was the last destroyer remaining from Admiral Karos's once mighty fleet. Around him, space was filled with the wreckage of ships that had been considered invincible just an hour ago. Engine power at maximum, his engineering officer reported. But the human ship is still gaining on us. Sungan stared at the tactical display in disbelief. His destroyer was one of the fastest ships in the Valoran fleet, capable of outrunning almost anything in space. But the primitive human vessel was slowly closing the distance between them. How is that possible? He demanded. Their technology is thousands of years behind ours. Their ship appears to be designed differently than ours, his science officer replied nervously. Instead of elegance and efficiency, they focused on raw power and durability. The human warship looked nothing like the graceful Valoran vessels. Where Valoran ships had smooth curves and flowing lines, the human ship was all angles and hard edges. Where Valoran hulls were thin and light, optimized for speed, the human hull was thick and heavy, built to absorb punishment. Sir, the sensor officer called out, they're launching more of those guided projectiles, evasive maneuvers. Suman ordered, full power to maneuvering thrusters. The Void Stalker twisted through space in a complex pattern designed to confuse enemy targeting systems. It was a dance that had saved Valoran ships in countless battles against other energy weapon users. But human missiles didn't behave like energy beams? The projectiles are following us, the tactical officer reported with growing panic. They're changing course to match our movements. Sungmin watched in horror as the missiles adjusted their flight paths with each evasive maneuver his ship made. They moved like living things, thinking and adapting to his desperate attempts to escape. Point defense systems, continuous fire! He screamed. The Voidstalker's energy weapons tried to shoot down the incoming missiles, but there were too many coming from too many directions. The alien point defense was designed to stop single targets, not swarms of independently guided projectiles. 2 missiles struck the destroyer's engine section. The explosions sent shockwaves through the ship's biomechanical hull, damaging systems that had never been designed to handle kinetic impacts. Warning lights flashed across the bridge as critical systems failed. Engine power dropping, the engineering officer reported. We're losing speed. Reroute everything, Sungvin ordered desperately. Life support, artificial gravity, everything not essential to movement. But it was too late. The human ship was already within weapons range, and its railguns were targeting the crippled destroyer. Sungmin had just enough time to send a final message before tungsten rounds punched through his ship's hull. All Valoran forces, he broadcast on all frequencies, beware of human kinetic weapons. Our shields cannot stop them. Repeat, energy shields are useless against solid projectiles. The Void Stalker broke apart seconds later, adding its debris to the growing field of wreckage. Captain Minho watched the last destroyer die and felt no satisfaction. Each enemy ship destroyed was a potential source of information lost forever. His mission had been peaceful exploration, not genocide. Any survivors? He asked. Medical Officer Yuna checked her sensors carefully. Negative, Captain. Their life support systems seem to fail completely when their hulls are breached. No escape pods, no survival gear. They're not used to losing, observed Strategic Officer Minsiak. He had been studying the alien tactics throughout the battle. Everything about their ship suggests they expected to win every engagement quickly and decisively, which means they're probably not prepared for news of this defeat, Minho realized. How long before reinforcements arrive? Intelligence Officer. Ji-hoon was already working on that question. Based on their communication attempts, they were trying to contact something called Sector Command. If I had to guess, they have a larger force somewhere nearby. How much larger? Unknown, sir. But if this was just a patrol fleet, the main force could be hundreds of ships. The implications were sobering. The KSFS Dayan had won this battle through surprise and superior tactics, but those advantages would not last. Once the enemy understood human capabilities, they would adapt their strategies accordingly. Captain, Communications Specialist Jinho called out, I'm picking up long-range transmissions. Something's coming this way. More alien ships? Yes. Sir, multiple contacts moving fast. Ada approximately 4 hours, Minho made a quick decision. We're not running a fighting retreat across half the galaxy. We need to end this threat before it becomes too large to handle. Sir? Yunwoo looked confused. End it how? By finding their main base and destroying it before they can mount a proper response. The crew exchanged glances. It was a bold plan. Perhaps too bold? But they had already proven that human weapons could defeat Valoran technology. The question was whether they could do it on a larger scale. Ji-hoon, what can you tell me about their home base? Working on it, Captain. Ji-hoon was sifting through data recovered from the alien ship's wreckage. Their navigation systems are different from ours, but I'm starting to understand the patterns. Engineer Ji-won was running diagnostics on all ship systems. We used about 40% of our ammunition in this engagement. Railgun capacitors need 2 hours to fully recharge. Missile launchers are still operational, but we're down to half our original payload. Can we manufacture more ammunition? Some of it, yes. The ship's fabrication systems can make simple projectiles and conventional explosives. The nuclear warheads and specialized penetration rounds are finite, Minho nodded. They would have to make every shot count in future engagements. Sir, Jinho interrupted, the incoming ships are trying to communicate with the wreckage. They know something happened here. Let them talk to debris, Minho replied grimly. Maybe they'll learn something useful. Navigator Soyen was plotting courses based on the alien navigation data. Captain, if Ji-hoon is right about their base location, it's about 6 hours from here at maximum speed. Time enough for them, too. Prepare for us, Minsiak observed. Or time enough for us to prepare for them, Minho countered. Ji-won, I want every system checked and rechecked. Dong-yoon, review our remaining ammunition and plan loadouts for maximum effectiveness. Yoon-ji, analyze everything we learned about their technology. The crew went to work with quiet efficiency. They had won their first battle against an alien empire, but they all understood that the real test was yet to come. The Valoran Empire would not be defeated by one ship, no matter how well armed or well commanded. Captain, Yuna said quietly, what if we're starting a war that Earth can't win? Minho looked at her steadily. Then we make sure Earth doesn't have to fight it alone. If this empire has enemies, we find them. If they have weaknesses, we exploit them. And if they have plans to attack Earth, we stop them here. One ship against an empire? One ship that they're not prepared for, Minho corrected. They've spent thousands of years getting comfortable with their superiority. Today we showed them that superior technology doesn't always win battles. Tomorrow we show them that determination and tactical thinking can defeat numerical odds. The KSFS Dayan began moving toward the estimated location of the Valoran base. Behind them, space was filled with the debris of ships that had underestimated human capabilities. Ahead of them lay whatever forces the Valoran Empire could gather to defend their territory, but for the first time in thousands of years, the Valoran Empire was afraid. Their patrol fleet had been completely destroyed by a single primitive vessel, using weapons that shouldn't have been effective. The news of this defeat would spread quickly through their territory, bringing fear and uncertainty to a people who had forgotten what it meant to lose. The humans were coming, and the galaxy would never be the same. The debris field stretched for thousands of kilometers in all directions. Twisted metal that had once been the pride of the Valoran Empire now drifted silently through space, cooling in the eternal darkness. Captain Minho stood on the bridge of the KSFS Dayan, watching the wreckage slowly tumble in the light of distant stars. "Final count, 12 enemy vessels destroyed," reported Weapons Officer Dong Yun. "No survivors detected from any of them." It had taken less than 30 minutes to destroy an entire Valoran patrol fleet. 30 minutes to announce humanity's presence to the galaxy in the most violent way possible. Minho felt the weight of that responsibility settling on his shoulders. "Ji-hoon, what have you learned from their wreckage?" he asked. Intelligence Officer Ji-hoon looked up from his analysis station. "A great deal, Captain. Their computer systems are surprisingly easy to access once you understand the basic structure. They use quantum-based data storage, but the encryption is focused on preventing energy-based attacks, not physical intrusion." Meaning? Meaning when we blew holes in their ships, we also created physical access points to their data cores. I've been able to extract navigation charts, military protocols, and even some cultural information. Engineer Jiwan turned from her own station. "Their technology is impressive in some ways, primitive in others. They've advanced far beyond us in energy manipulation and biological engineering, but they seem to have forgotten some basic principles about kinetic energy and momentum." "How is that possible?" asked Science Officer Youngji. "Success, strategic," Officer Minseok answered. "They've been the dominant power in this region for so long that they never needed to adapt. Their enemies all use similar technology, so they optimize for that kind of warfare." Captain Minho nodded thoughtfully. "It's like a boxer who's only ever fought other boxers suddenly facing a wrestler. The skills don't transfer." "Exactly," Jawan agreed. "Their weapons are designed to overwhelm energy shields with sustained fire. Their armor is built to deflect energy beams. Their tactics assume long-range dueling between opponents using similar weapons. Against kinetic projectiles, they were helpless." Medical Officer Yuna was studying biological samples from the alien wreckage. "Captain, their physiology is interesting. They appear to be adapted for low-gravity environments and artificial atmospheres. I suspect they've been living in space habitats for a very long time, which explains why their ships don't have robust life support systems," Navigator Soyen observed. "They're used to controlled environments, not the kind of damage we inflicted." Communications specialist Junho had been monitoring alien frequencies since the battle ended. "Sir, I'm picking up increased chatter from multiple sources." "Word of. This engagement is spreading fast. What are they saying?" "Fear, mostly. Confusion. Some are calling for reinforcements, others are demanding explanations. But the message that keeps repeating is that a primitive species somehow destroyed an entire patrol fleet." Intelligence Officer Ji-hoon pulled up a holographic display showing the local region of space. "Based on the navigation data I've recovered, the Valoran Empire controls approximately 40 star systems in this sector. Their main fleet base is here," he pointed to a red dot on the display, "about 6 hours away at maximum speed." "How many ships?" "Conservative estimate? Several hundred combat vessels plus support craft and orbital installations." The bridge fell silent as the crew absorbed this information. They had won a great victory, but they were still vastly outnumbered. "Captain," Minseok said carefully, "we need to consider our options. We could return to Earth immediately and warn them about this threat. Or we could try to gather more intelligence before the Valorans can organize a proper response. There's a third option, Minho said quietly. We could try to end this threat before it reaches Earth. One ship against hundreds? Yuna asked incredulously. One ship they're not prepared for, Minho corrected. Ji-hoon, what can you tell me about their command structure? Highly centralized. Everything flows through sector commanders who report to regional governors who report to the Central Empire. If we could disrupt their command and control, they'd be unable to coordinate a response, Yunji finished, at least temporarily. Engineer Jiwon was already running calculations. We have enough ammunition for maybe 2 more engagements like this one. After that, we'd be down to basic projectiles and whatever we can manufacture on board. What about their technology? Minho asked. Anything we can use? Some of it, yes. Their energy systems are incompatible with ours, but I might be able to reverse engineer some of their weapons. Give me a few hours and I could probably mount some of their plasma cannons on our hull. Do it. Jun-ho, send a message back to Earth. Full technical data on everything we've learned, plus our current position and status. Sir, Jun-ho hesitated, if we're planning to attack their main base, shouldn't we wait for reinforcements? By the time reinforcements could reach us, the Valorans will have adapted to our tactics. Our only advantage right now is that they don't understand how we fight. Once they figure that out, we lose the element of surprise, Hyunwoo agreed. And probably the war. The crew spent the next several hours preparing for what might be their final battle. Jiwon worked frantically to install captured alien weapons alongside their human systems. Dongyun reconfigured their remaining ammunition for maximum effectiveness. Yunji analyzed every piece of data they had gathered about Valoran technology and tactics, but it was Ji-hoon who made the most important discovery. Captain, he called out excitedly, I've found something significant in their command protocols. The Valoran Empire has enemies. What kind of enemies? Other species that have been fighting them for generations. Look at this. He displayed intercepted communications on the main screen. There's an ongoing conflict with something called the Free Coalition in 3 adjacent sectors. How does that help us? Because if we can make contact with these other species, we might not be fighting alone. The enemy of our enemy. Could be our friend, Minho finished, or at least our ally against a common threat. Strategic Officer Minseok was already thinking ahead. If we could coordinate our attack with theirs, hit the Valorans from multiple directions, we might actually have a chance, Yuna said with growing excitement. Captain Minho looked around at his crew. They were young and inexperienced, but they had already proven themselves in battle. More importantly, they understood what was at stake. Earth's first contact with alien life had gone disastrously wrong, but that didn't mean humanity was doomed. Set course for the Valoran base, he ordered. But we're not going in blind. Ji-hoon, see if you can make contact with this Free Coalition. Tell them humanity wants to join the fight. And if they're not interested in human help? Soyen asked. Then we show them what human weapons can do to Valoran ships, Minho replied grimly. One way or another, we're going to make sure the Valoran Empire learns that Earth is not a planet to be conquered. The KSFS Dayan began moving away from the debris field, leaving behind the wreckage of humanity's first space battle. The Valoran Empire had started this fight expecting an easy victory over primitive opponents. Instead, they had awakened a species that refused to surrender, refused to be conquered, and refused to accept that technological superiority guaranteed victory. In the depths of space, ancient powers were about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous enemy was the one you underestimated. The galaxy had been stable for thousands of years, but that stability was about to end. Humanity had entered the cosmic stage, and the universe would never be the same. The war for Earth's survival was just beginning, but for the first time since leaving their home planet, the crew of the KSFS Dayan felt something they hadn't expected to feel when facing an interstellar empire. Hope. Behind them, cooling debris marked the grave of Valoran arrogance. Ahead of them lay the unknown, dangerous and full of possibilities. And somewhere between the wreckage of the past and the uncertainty of the future, humanity had found its place among the stars.